You're listening to the Faith and Business Podcast with me, your host, Elle Edwards, from the Faith and Business Playground, here with Bible-friendly brain gymnastics to help make your day-to-day life and business more delightful. In today's episode of the podcast, we are going to be thinking about how you can start living your perfect ordinary day today. Now, if you haven't already listened to the previous episode of the podcast, this is one of those examples, one of those occasions where it would probably be helpful to go back and do so. Or you might have followed along. If you followed along with the Facebook Live that I did week beginning 17th, I think it was, of December, just before Christmas, we talked about this perfect ordinary day exercise then as well. So if you are familiar with the concept, that's fine. Move forward into this episode. However, if you're going perfect ordinary day, what on earth are you talking about, Elle? Then you need to play catch up. I don't usually advocate playing catch up, I'll be honest. I'm usually liking you to just move forward, but this is that exception. So I will link to that episode in the show notes because you really need to have written and done the perfect ordinary day exercise before you can start to think about how you can live it now. It makes sense, doesn't it? You can't possibly, how can you start living your perfect ordinary day if you haven't first identified what that perfect ordinary day is? You see, that's why I'm suggesting you should go back. Anyway, you're still here. I'm assuming that you have done the perfect ordinary day exercise, or you're someone who did it relatively recently, because I did actually introduce this idea to some of the lovely people in my Facebook group earlier in the year. So with that said, in the previous episode, we talked about how when you do the exercise, all normal rules of geography and time do not apply. And I invited you to be bold and to use your imagination and your creativity and experiment with it and play with it. But that, of course, when you do that, you might find yourself writing down a whole load of stuff that you can't possibly see how it could ever happen. It will feel impossible. Now, I gave you in the previous episode, I gave you that example of us having breakfast outside every day. I'm not going to repeat that story. You've heard that one. I want to give you another example though. And this one is it is related, but it's a bit tenuous. But hear me out. This is an example of a perfect ordinary day that was never actually written down, but it was one of my dreams. When I was a kid, some of you listening, if you're in the UK and you're of a similar age to me, you might remember Philip Schofield in The Broom Cupboard with Gordon the Gopher. If you do remember Philip Schofield, this is when Philip Schofield had brown hair, was much younger. He was doing it before Andy Crane, Andy Peters, remember them? I don't know. If you're nodding along, hooray! I'm glad that somebody remembers who they are. However, he was like, when you watch kids' TV now, aside from the fact that it's on like loads of different channels, we only had 4 channels when I was growing up. I don't even know if Channel 4 was there initially. But anyway, so before when the children's TV programs came on at 3:30, there was a presenter. And when I was probably about 10-ish maybe, Philip Schofield, I'd have to Google that actually to check out how old it was, but I'm placing it in my head from the house we were living in at the time. I want to say I was about 10, and Philip Schofield had this little, they had him in a little tiny room where he would do the presenting. It was called The Broom Cupboard. But anyway, I loved Philip Schofield and Gordon the Gopher and in The Broom Cupboard. And so at that time, if you'd have asked me when I was about 10 or 11 what I wanted to be when I grew up, I would have told you I wanted to be a TV presenter and I wanted to present like Philip Schofield with Gordon the Gopher in The Broom Cupboard. And I did. I thought, oh yeah, that'd be amazing and such fun and really brilliant. And I've always been a little bit of a show off and a bit noisy and liking the sound of my own voice. So it doesn't really surprise me. But the other thing, if we then fast forward to me at about probably age 14-ish, I have another memory which is related. So in this memory, I'm in a different house. We'd moved to Carmarthen at this point. My family had gone off somewhere. I don't know why. That's why I'm guessing I must have been 13 or 14 to be allowed to be left home alone. But I decided I was going to cook tea. And so I was going to make pizza from scratch. And I remember, do you remember when you used to watch TV? I don't know if they do it so much now, but they have all the ingredients already weighed out in little bowls. And so in preparation for making this pizza for my family, I weighed out all my ingredients, put them in little bowls in front of me. And I have this memory of me standing behind this counter in my mum's kitchen, presenting to an imaginary camera and talking through the logistics of how I did this and whatever. My other memory from that time is the mess I made. It was absolutely diabolical. I imagine I probably got a row off my mum. I don't remember getting a row, but I probably would have done. But I remember, but my clear memory is of me presenting to this imaginary camera, talking to this person who I couldn't see as I made this pizza. Now, I hadn't done the perfect ordinary day exercise at that time. I wasn't introduced to that until much, much later when I was an adult. However, we always have these dreams and aspirations. We always have these things that we, maybe gifts that were there from the very beginning. And it's fascinating to me that even as a child and then as a young teenager, this idea of speaking and putting stuff out there, albeit in the context of a camera or whatever, it was always something that was really fascinating and interesting to me. And here we are, 20 odd years later, and I'm recording a podcast, and I have a daily little mindset thing that goes out there. And every time I record that, I imagine I'm talking to you. Like, I don't imagine I'm talking to myself, because that would be rubbish, wouldn't it? Even though I can't see you, I'm there delivering this to you. And you can't see me, but I gesture with my hands, and I'm, it's just like how I remember doing it when I was making that pizza back in my mum's kitchen when I was a teenager. And my point is this. Sometimes when you write down these things on your perfect ordinary day description, when you write out what that looks like, you will write down things that are very specific and are very far out there, and they might not be physically, literally possible right now as you've described them. However, as I said to you in the previous episode, the funny thing is the way your brain works is that by identifying what is important to you, by putting it down there and out there in words, your brain will start filtering in examples. And so I want to encourage you today to think about, to answer this question to yourself, and ask yourself, what can you do today to start living your perfect ordinary day? I'm going to say that again. What can you do today to start living your perfect ordinary day? Take some time, think about it, ponder on it, see what your brain brings up. Be open to the possibility. Like my example of me doing this podcast versus me wanting to be a TV presenter. As an aside, I used to do a video version of this until my lapel mic broke and I had to change my setup. So this is now, at the moment at least, it's only an audio version. But I did actually have videos on my YouTube channel, so that was even closer to this idea of doing stuff on the telly. What's fascinating, living in the age that we live in now, there are so many opportunities available to us that we can do things and share things and experience things that would have felt impossible 5 or 10 years ago. And so as you ponder on what you can do today to make your perfect ordinary day possible, be open to different ideas, be open to tweaks on stuff. Because if you're working from home and you're responsible for taking the children to school every day, the reality is that you're unlikely to go and deliver a keynote speech in New York every lunchtime. I say that because that was the example I gave in the previous episode. Because logistically, you can't do it. However, thanks to technology, there is no reason why you couldn't deliver something in New York virtually. And will that have the same impact? It could do. I mean, this is me making stuff up, so I don't know what it is you actually want to do as a result of it. But we have this opportunity, thanks to the internet, to reach out to and impact and connect with people all over the world. So there's no reason why the stuff that you wanted to achieve and the feelings you wanted to feel as a result of that thing you wrote down, it's perfectly logical to me that you could bring aspects of that into your life right now today. And so I don't want you to start thinking of your perfect ordinary day as being something way over there. I'll be happy when? No. I will have my perfect ordinary day when? No. You can be happy today. You can bring elements of your perfect ordinary day into today. You've just got to keep your eyes open for it, be open-minded, and decide that it is possible. Decide that it can be done, and then see what comes up. Because the amazing thing is, God knew beforehand, like you were created to be you. This person that you are today, like I gave the example of me as a child. Yes, I'm different now that I'm an adult, because we do change and develop. But I still see elements of who I was as a child in my personality today and in the way that I show up in the world today. So I was made to be me. You were made to be you. And so it stands to reason that God, these things that are important to you, it says, I've lost the Bible reference, but it says in the Bible that, those desires that you have them because God put them there. So if God's going to create you wonderfully and delightfully and amazingly knit together and given these desires, it stands to reason that God should help provide the way to make that stuff happen, because he loves you. It'd be a nasty trick otherwise. Give you all these really great desires and this stuff you want to do, and then God goes, yeah, sorry, can't do that. That would be rubbish. He's not that kind of God. And so I want to encourage you that actually you can start finding ways to bring that perfect ordinary day into your today. But the very first step is to do the perfect ordinary day exercise if you haven't done it already. I'm going to assume you have, because you've still listened. So if you've done it, fantastic, well done. Brownie points to you. The next step then is to ponder on what can you do today to start living your perfect ordinary day. Keep your eyes open for the answers. Go out there expecting the answers and then see what comes up, okay? Excellent. I shall be back on Friday with a new episode of the podcast. If you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe using your favorite podcasting app. And if you've enjoyed this episode and previous episodes, please do leave a review, because it will help other people find it as well. In the meantime, thank you for listening. I look forward to catching up with you next time. I've been Elle Edwards from the Faith and Business Playground. Take care. Bye-bye.